Hey everyone, welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we have no credibility anymore.
Nope.
Which we'll get into in a second. Normally, I would say we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by criticizing current players, but I don't know if we can teach anybody anything anymore. We're talking about the season 43 finale tonight, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say spoiler alert right now. Go watch the finale.
Yep, go watch the finale. I think the only way that us three hosts can communicate anything is if we jump right to the end, because it puts a lot of things in perspective, some for the better, some for the worst. And the only reason I'm talking right now is to give you more time to pause the podcast and go watch the finale before you listen to us. And then please do come back.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Yeah. So the guy, I think in literally every episode, we have this segment. Well, we do have this segment, who cannot win the game. And I believe, if I remember correctly, in every single episode, -1 for Derek. I believe Derek said otherwise in one episode, but I believe Josh and I are 100% of the time we said Mike Gabler cannot win this game. He won 8-1 to Zip tonight.
7-1 to Zip.
7-1 to Zip. All right, whatever how many jurors there are.
One vote away from a perfect game.
Yep. And that's where we're at tonight. That's where we're opening. I'm Ryan Stacy, by the way. I might have to turn in my super fan card after this. Josh, you might have to as well.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm joined by my wonderful and completely unintelligent Survivor fans, and I include myself.
Yeah, I would kind of classify myself right now as flabbergasted.
Yep. Derek Kubicek and Josh Wessler are both here.
Hello. Yeah. What a finale, guys.
How's the finale?
I still don't know how I feel about it. I'm really conflicted here. And it's like it changed. Like, I was sitting the entire time during the reunion show with so many different emotions. And for those of you that don't know or don't watch our video or anything like that, I'm watching this alone. Basically, Ryan and Derek are watching it together at their place. I'm watching it alone at my place. So I have no one to, we talk to each other over like Messenger and everything like that, but I don't have someone to just talk to to vent my feelings in person with.
Sounds like you should move back up here.
Yeah. So every like 5 minutes, my feeling changed throughout this reunion show, where I'm like, wow, is this the dawn of a new era of Survivor? Is this a great new strategy for how to win the game? And then 5 minutes later, it's like, everyone on this jury is a bunch of bitter morons who had robbed us of a great end to a great season. And then back to, I hate the Survivor producers for showing me the edit this way. And then back to, I know nothing about Survivor. And everything just kept going around and around and around, and I still don't know how I feel about it.
I'll tell you what the correct answer is. Number 3, I hate the Survivor producers for showing us the story this way. That is the correct answer.
And this is Derek, by the way. I don't even feel like I've said my name yet. It's one of those things. I don't want to say that the show gave us an incoherent narrative, but at the same time,
they did.
This felt like season 8 of Game of Thrones, where they were literally like, let's just take the least likely based on edit and make that the reality, and therefore we have subverted your expectations. We have checked the box. That is a good thing that the focus groups tell us that we want to make our people feel. But I want to go back to criticisms that I have levied throughout this season. We did not ever get to understand how these players truly feel about each other, and especially not post-merge. It was always sacrificing for backstory or sacrificing for something that had no bearing on the plot or the overall narrative. The fact that we didn't understand why Gabler won until 10 minutes into the after show tells me everything that I need to know about this season's edit. And Ryan, he made a great observation. He said, look at all the things that Gabler knows about all of these people. He knows about Ryan's dad. He knows about Carla's wife. He knows about Noelle. He knows about Jesse's past. And he rattles all of these things off like it was secondhand knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the social game.
Yep.
So as much as I want to say this is like, a new era of Survivor where all different types of strategies are given credence, given validity in the new, the new jury format where it's not just one question and go cast your vote. This is really just the social game. And it was very, very poorly edited.
Oh, yeah.
Very poorly edited, because all we got was Gabler's a goof on Baca, and then we never saw anything related to Gabler's social game after that. Never, not once. There isn't one hint. We've got hints to Gabler's strategic game, which I honestly, because I'm just on a roll, I'm going to keep going. The things that people were pointing out in the week leading up to this finale, and RHAP and a lot of Survivor pundits out there were saying Gabler can win this game. I always felt it was kind of like the Darth Jar Jar fan theory in Star Wars, where he was actually a Sith Lord, but it would never actually happen. It was never proven. Well, obviously, maybe they knew something that I didn't. Maybe they knew how likable Gabler was, or just, what they called the shot. Good for them. But all of these things that they were citing as proof that Gabler could win, like, oh, look at this, Gabler always has a plan. Gabler always has a plan. I noticed every time Gabler said that, and every time he did something like that, where he approached someone and said, trust me, I have a plan. The thing is he never followed that up. He never did anything with it, or it was never him doing it. So I assumed that the jury was going to ream him out at the end saying, Gabler, you always promised us a plan and you never did it. And the exact opposite happened. Oh, you did always have a plan. Unfortunately, I still view Gabler's strategic game as having no plan. But you know what? In a final three, a flawed final three, I do believe the best social game has won yet again, and it just was not shown to us very well.
I agree with Derek.
Yeah, and I don't know how much we want to talk necessarily about whether or not we agree or the jury motivations or anything like that, or if we want to hold that until
we have a segment for that at the end.
Who would we have voted
episode?
For? I think we got quite a few first takes, at least here at the beginning of the episode. One other that I want to make sure that we cover right off the bat is I feel slightly vindicated here. Because you guys said over and over and over and over and over again that Owen was going to be Cassidy at the end. Now, I know it's second place versus third, and what happens with the other 7 votes if Gabler doesn't exist in this game? I don't care. Cassidy got 1 and Owen got 0.
Yep, you win the Survivor pool.
Yeah, to spoil the survival pool, bring that all the way up to the front. But I'm just going to say, ranked choice voting. I still don't think that Cass has a chance. But that,
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
We'll never know.
Gabler's 1 vote away from being a perfect game.
I lost the Survivor pool. That's the story. Josh wins.
Haha. Well, Survivor pool and mostly just the fact that you guys were dogging on
with
me
Owen
for half of the half of the season.
I don't think anyone here has the right to dog on anyone tonight.
No.
Because Gabler freaking won the game. So
that's fair.
I don't think any of us could be punching up or down towards anyone tonight.
At best, we're throwing punches sideways.
So before we jump into this, there's one last thing I want to get into, and it's a comparison I want to make between Gabler and Erica season 41. I think they are very similar in terms of Survivor really screwed them on the edit. It's just unusual. This happens a lot with a lot of the female winners where they get kind of shafted on the edit because the social game is harder to show on camera, and that was Gabler's focus. And I think the same thing happened to him. So I'm not saying Gabler's an undeserving winner by any means at all. I'm just saying the editors screwed up and they need to do a better job at portraying the social game. You don't want to go overboard and make it obvious this person's going to win. But the fact that we got nothing of Gabler's social game except for the bad moments, it almost feels like they're trying to do a whole gotcha on us, and that's not why any of us watch Survivor. And I've complained about this season. They're keeping us guessing going into like the next episode. Like, wait, what happened? We're confused. We shouldn't be confused. We should be like, okay, here's option A, here's option B, and maybe an option C. Throw that in there sometimes. Which one is going to happen? We're guessing which one's going to happen, and we need to understand why each one of those things could and which one ultimately does end up happening and why. We did not get that We got a reason for Owen to win. We did get a reason for Cassie to win. And until Final Tribal Council, and even more sorts of the after show, we didn't get those reasons for Gabler. And that is a failure on the editing. So once again I have a lot of criticism at the Survivor editors.
Yeah, my last comment, and it'll be a quick one, is I feel badly that I don't feel that Gabler is a deserving winner, but that's not my fault. I was not given enough information because we try to be unbiased. We try to self-scout. We try to think about all the angles. And the fact that all three of us missed it, I wish that I could enjoy Gabler's win more in the moment and stop reading between the lines in the after show to figure it out.
Yeah, there's something going on. I don't want my winner to be predictable. Like I want there to be mystery going into Final Tribal, but I don't want to be so confused afterwards. Yep. So just give us something more to where it's like, wow, good for them. I wasn't expecting that, but good job.
This is kind of like a whodunit where they don't introduce the killer as a character. Famously, spoiler alerts for a movie from 1980, Friday the 13th is kind of presented as a whodunit movie. But we are never introduced to the killer until the killer reveal. It's cheating. And that's kind of how I feel about this. It's like the who won it, but like the Gabler, yes, he was introduced as a character, but he wasn't introduced as a viable winner, nor shown to be a candidate at any point. So that's kind of how I feel. It's annoying. It's better than the previous ones because Gabler was still a character and we got a lot of him. Okay, that's great for like a third place finisher, but for a first place, we needed more. All right, you guys ready to jump into the episode proper chronologically?
I think that's all we can do at this point.
We got the breaking news out of the way. All right, so Final Five, we get the final advantage challenge clue, which we've done the last two seasons. You solve, unscramble a word phrase, and then follow the clue. It becomes a race between Carla and Owen, and Carla is going to end up getting the advantage. Not that big of an advantage, I would say. Just gets you through the balance, being like a trip or two quicker in the final immunity challenge. It doesn't end up saving Carla. Owen is going to win immunity at the final 5 and take Cassie on reward.
And I think good choice by him to take her.
Yep, I like the Cassie pick. We talked about this last time, and it's exactly what's going to happen. Carla and Jesse have to go, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So a lot of good moves in this final 5, final 4.
We were on the same page, at least in our last episode, about how the breakdown of this was going to go. Really what we disagreed on was how the vote was going to lay out at the end, but it basically went exactly how we expected and how we predicted. So I don't know if that's good for us or it's just super obvious strategy editing, whatever it might be on the Survivor side.
So the question is it going to be Carla or Jesse first? We get a bunch of different perspectives. Even Carla, who's talking to Jesse about really taking out Cassie, is actually like, I'm gunning for Jesse. Jesse's got to go. And I think based on all the jury reactions this episode, I would put Jesse as, of these 5, I think Jesse beats everybody. I think I will safely lock that in. It's
something that I didn't feel comfortable with until we got to the after show. Yeah. But we'll be retrospective now, and I will say that I agree. This is not. I don't think this is a better jury. Not at all.
We do get a little bit of an argument between like Carla and Cassidy, and Carla's kind of a jerk to Cassidy, I thought, in this episode. Like, oh, you haven't really done anything, and if you vote me out and put me on the jury, I'm going to tell everyone that you didn't do anything. It was all me and James. And then I won't vote for you at the end. And I'm like, that's kind of crappy. You don't negotiate with terrorists. Vote her out.
I will give her kudos about she was holding her vote hostage, and we've used that as a viable tactic on this podcast, and we don't see it that often. So I do want to shout her out for that. And really, she knows that she has a very good chance of going home tonight. So she's just throwing every move and every tactic in the book at Cassidy here. So I don't really have too much of an issue with it. I do wonder though if she holds true to her word here though, and she does kind of taint the jury with her opinions about Cassidy or shifting their whole mindset. We can get into that later.
Yep.
But that might not be a complete lie.
It might not be.
Well, and when I saw that Carla voted for Gabler, I was like, look at that, staying true to her word. And for the record, I do think holding her vote hostage is a perfectly viable strategy if your back is against the wall and if it's between you and $1 million and hurting Cassidy's feelings one time. I'm not against that. And
No.
also, if she does taint the jury, she probably only tainted them with the truth.
Don't know if that's true or not. But
We
I
don't
will
know.
say I think we've only seen this hold your jury vote strategy. I think we've seen it twice.
Yeah, Jean Robert in China.
Okay, so maybe 3 times then. Because Vetus also does this in Blood versus Water. And it didn't work for any of them. Carla now being the third, I don't think this works. I think all you're gonna do is piss off that person. If you have nothing else, fine, try it. But I don't think this is a viable strategy.
And this is, of course, just saying the times that it's made air.
It's
where
made
they
air.
felt that it's been.
And again, we don't
you
see
know,
everything. 1% of 1%.
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah,
storyline
blah, blah.
coherent, but yeah.
We can only talk about what we know.
Yep.
And see. We're gonna go to Tribal Council. Carla tries to throw Jesse under the bus again, and Jesse's gonna reveal his idol that he got from Dwight, who got from Janine. And this might be my favorite part of the episode is Janine's face when she realizes her idol is in Jesse's pocket.
It's another Survivor gift that I believe will transcend the niche audience of Survivor. You know, this will be the Maddie sugar reaction gift.
Nothing will be that big.
No, it won't be. It won't be that big, but it'll be transcendent
We'll
from
see
the
it.
Survivor fan base.
I've already seen it tonight.
It was great. He revealed it a lot earlier than I thought. I thought it was going to be, the reveal after the votes. Interesting choice to do it now. Maybe, draw it out a little bit more, like increase the impact of it by doing it before the votes. I guess I understand that, the vote is still completely in your hands of what you want to do regardless of how you approach it.
He put on a show for the jury, and I think that's huge because the jury doesn't get to see a whole lot of the game. So I actually really like this for Jesse, and it's it's gonna turn it into a live tribal. It seems like, but I don't think it actually changed anything because Jesse's gonna play the idol for himself. It's gonna be 4 votes for Carla, 1 vote for Jesse. I'm fairly confident that's what was gonna happen before this.
I'd really like to believe that, but I've seen Jesse make the unconventional move so many times that I genuinely believe he went in with a 60-40 split on what he was going to do.
Sure.
With the 60 that he was going to play it on himself, but the 40 being like, maybe I want to take Carla. Like, maybe I just don't want to give them what they want. I just want to own this game from beginning of merge to end of merge. It's literally all mine. You can't have it.
And do you think that this is still the move when he ends up, fast forward to after the fire making challenge? Is this the move that he's talking about when he says, I made one wrong move essentially in this game? Because this was really the last conflicting thing that he was talking about.
I thought the wrong move was just losing fire.
I took that as him losing fire as well.
I did too, but that's not really a decision. That's just, you failed to perform in that moment. I don't know if he's thinking like, oh, if I would have, taken out Cassidy or something like that, then I wouldn't have been in fire, or it would have been me versus Carla and I could have beaten Carla in fire, so I wasn't really sure what he was talking about there, but that was interesting because if everyone knows that Gabler is like this master fire maker, I think the right move obviously is still to take out Carla.
I don't know if people knew Gabler was a master fire maker. I don't know if people
and
knew
I don't know. No idea.
Ultimately, I do think it was the right move to get rid of Carla. You can almost take Jesse out of the equation. You could go after either Carla or Jesse. For the other 3, Gabler, Owen, and Cassidy, both those 2 have to go. Who is better at challenges up to this point? Carla. Jesse's been terrible at everything. That makes sense. And then Jesse whips out that idol. Maybe if you're planning on blindsiding Jesse, then you just switch it around and go for Carla instead. So ultimately, I think the right person went home.
Yeah, and I'll go one step further and say I wanted to see one of either Cass, Owen, or Gabler throw a vote on Jesse anyway, because going into that, Carla was going to vote for. She was going to vote for Jesse, but then it was going to maybe get moved over to Cass because of what she had talked about with Jesse. So you need to make sure that Jesse receives at least 1 vote in case he chooses to play his now public idol on Carla, to make sure you at least get to a revote, if not take him out outright. So the fact that Carla was the only one to do it, I didn't love that, but ultimately they've got a better read on the situation than I do, so I trust them.
Let's get into best and worst player of the final 5 then. I'll kick us off with my best player of the final 5. I'm going to give it to Jesse. I debated between Jesse and Owen because Owen won immunity. Jesse played his idol and put on this big show, and then they both took out Carla. And I ultimately am going to land on Jesse just because he got to do his move in front of the jury, and I think that boosts him more than an immunity win. Both are great. Honorable mention Owen. I'm going to give mine to Jesse. Derek?
I actually did just land mine on Owen. I felt like the way that Jesse played the idol was a little bit too showy and a little bit too overcomplicated. And even though it ended up just being the simplest thing, it was like you went through this whole exercise for no reason. And he opened himself up by revealing the possibility to being taken out in a pretty ridiculous way. So I just felt like it was all for nothing. The surprise factor would have been just as big if he pulled out Janine's idol without making it public. So I didn't give Jesse boosts for that. It's not a demerit. I just didn't give him boosts for it. Owen did the best.
I gave it to Jesse. Yeah, it's pretty close between the two of them. Really the only thing that differentiated it for me is that Owen wasn't in danger or anything like that. So it's not like he saved himself by winning immunity. Like good for him. You won immunity. You took Cass. You made a plan. And I don't know who they were going to decide. But kind of minor point to the side here is at their kind of extra reward with the immunity challenge, Owen wanted to take out Jesse. Cassidy wanted to take out Carla, so they decided to go with Carla.
Cassidy did convince Owen to go after Carla.
So that was kind of just like, oh, Owen, okay. Maybe try harder. I don't know.
I don't know.
So
they both have to go.
I understand that. It's just like, it was interesting to see. So I gave it to Jesse just because it was that big flash move that everyone wants.
How about worst player, Dirk?
I had Gabler just because I didn't like how he acted when he didn't get picked to go on reward.
That was all in a confession.
I understand that. Other than that, it would be NA.
Then do NA. That's ridiculous.
Everyone did what they were supposed to do. So
then switch it to NA because that's ridiculous.
Hey, I just wanted to pick someone, so I'll call it NA. That's fine.
Josh,
it's up to you, Derek. You can keep it Gabler if you really feel like it. I'm going NA because
I'm going NA as well.
I didn't think that anyone played poorly in this first part.
I didn't think it was poorly. I was looking to split hairs. Okay. Don't flame me for trying to split hairs. We do it all the time.
Yeah, but when you name someone worst player, they actually need to have done something bad.
I do think there was a moment where Gabler was talking with someone about another plan that he never enacted. So there was that.
He helped take out Carla. Remember. That was a great move. Taking out Carla is the right move. That's ridiculous. Oh man. All right, you guys ready to move on to the final four?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. It's that classic cup stacking one. You bring it through the metal frame thing. We've done this a few times, but they added on 5 extra cups to make it really difficult. So Cassidy is going to end up winning immunity at the final four.
And Owen breaks his rod.
Yeah. Yeah, he if Cassidy had knocked, because his all dropped with 1 to go, and he throws his rod and it snaps. So if Cassidy had screwed up, Owen wouldn't have been able to complete the challenge because he broke it. Don't lose your temper, folks.
Yeah, and I do like that they, really minor addition here that they added on a couple of extra little cuppy things that you have to stack, because I feel like whenever we've seen this in the past, almost no one fails. No one tips over. And we saw what, two of them or 3 of them, whatever, actually fall. So I'm like, hey, cool. There's actually stuff going on. It's not just whoever can do it the fastest. You have to actually be careful while doing it. So yeah, good job, Survivor producers.
15 seemed excessive to me.
I loved it.
I like it. It's the final challenge. Make it extreme.
Sure.
Torture them.
Yeah.
I don't. They're only out there 26 days. Torture them.
Put them back in the water and do it as well. I don't know.
So Cassidy wins. She's going to bring someone to the end with her. The other 2 are going to make fire. Get rid of fire making. That's there every season.
Oh my gosh! And I think that is just kind of emphasized even more. This, there's even more on it here. Just there was just so much lost as well with the whole fire making here. Everyone's sad that Jesse went home, obviously, but I don't know. We've said enough about fire making. Everyone, I think, is on the same page that fire making sucks.
Yep, get rid of it.
Stop.
We said it every season. We'll say it every season until it goes away. We can all email the show now.
Yeah.
The Gmail
at Survivor or shout out
Survivor shout out
at gmail.com. I am pretty sure I sent them their first ever email. I said, Feedback.
I'm sure you were first.
Well,
It was so fast.
it was fast. It was seconds. I sent them an email that said, feedback for future seasons. They need more of me. Thank you. Much love, Derek Kupacek. And that was the whole email.
I respect it. We can all just say, hey, get rid of fire making. Just spam them. But the thing is, I would bet money that no one is ever going to read these. I think they set it up just maybe to get people to stop tweeting at them. And they sent this email, and no one is ever going to read it.
Just everything straight to the junk box.
Straight to the junk box. The only other thing they could do is they have one intern who like writes down what was said, and no one ever reads the intern's notes. No one. I don't think anything is going to get through in this email suggestions. I really don't.
The fact that it's at gmail.com really hammers.
Yeah, it's not. This isn't an at survivor.com or at cbs.com or at paramount.com. You know, an actual business email. No.
Yeah, I just don't buy it. I'm gonna use it anytime I get pissed. I'm gonna if knowledge is power comes back again, I will tweet at Jeff that it sucks every time, and I will send an email that it sucks every time.
You just have to make sure, folks, that you do both, because all they're doing is giving you two things to ignore, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't use your voice.
I will continue to harass Jeff for his terrible producing decisions and never get on Survivor because of it.
Just think of all of the great advice, good ideas, feedback, and everything like that this intern is gonna just go and sift through, and then they're gonna go to their boss and basically be like, oh my gosh, I have all these great ideas on how we can make Survivor better, and they're just like, yeah, I think your internship's over.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.
So who's ever like the intern, reach out to us. We want to talk to you. I think you'll end up being the greatest Survivor mind of all time.
Yeah. Oh, is it mid-August already? Bye, intern. Unpaid intern.
So Owen wants to be put in to take down Jesse in fire making, as does Gabler. They both want that big showy move on the resume. Jesse's like, hey, Cassie, you suck at making fire. How about you give up your immunity and come fight me in fire? And she's like, LOL, no. Hilarious.
Right move for Cassidy.
Oh, yeah. The one thing is with Gabler is, he's winded. He's an older guy. He's really tired out. So it's presented as like, oh, you should put Owen in and Owen will take down Jesse.
Another ridiculous editing decision that they didn't need to do so close to Gabler's win. Oh my, so many opportunities to show us something. I'm sorry.
I would have been okay with this if we had gotten more of the social game.
But we didn't. I'm just saying, like, if everything has to stay the same up to this point, at least give us a finale that proves to us that Gabler is a worthy winner. And yet they take every opportunity to show him as just this weak, feeble dude who's not participating.
So she's going to put Gabler in at fire, take Owen to the end. And Gabler is going to get the new record. He does it in 4 minutes and 9 seconds and just destroys Jesse. Jesse got a fire going. But Gabler knocks Jesse out of the game in epic fashion. I will say this is great for Gabler. But yeah, that's the end of Jesse. And we have a big, big sad moment. I think we all predicted Jesse. I predicted Jesse was going out here. I think you did too.
I think we all said Jesse was out at 4.
Yeah. Jesse will be back to play again.
Oh yeah,
when they bring back returners,
and he's gonna do it terribly.
Yeah, he's gonna be out immediately.
Jesse will be out, second opportunity on his pre-merge tribe.
But then the good news is, Jesse, when you come back for the third time, you might win.
Yes,
probably not, but maybe. This really hit me, like after there was kind of that realization of like, oh, Gabler's fire is burning through this rope, it is over. Like Jesse had a fire going and everything, and that was the big thing that he was worried about, is not being able to actually come through and get through this one moment, because he knows that he wins if he does it. And there's just this big emotional moment, and it was kind of here that I realized, like, wow, I was like, yeah, Cassidy was my winner pick from day one, and I was predicting her to win even at our last episode. But man, was I rooting for Jesse. I really wanted him to win this season, and I didn't really realize that as much until this moment came.
Meanwhile, Derek and I are actively rooting against him because we both thought Owen was going to win. So once Jesse was out, we're like, yeah, Owen's got this. We're going to get to rub this in Josh's face.
I was excited though after he lost. I'm like, oh man, I really wanted a dominant winner to take home this season, but now I can just rub it in Derek and Ryan's face that Cassidy ends up winning this game. And I was right all along.
And then here we are.
And
here we are.
We're all stupid.
So obviously Jesse needed to go. I'm gonna guess Gabler's like an amazing fire maker, and they just didn't show that to us. So I'm gonna assume the right move was made here by Cassidy.
Yeah, we have to trust her.
And I mean, even if you like, even if all things equal, Gabler and Owen are the exact same skill of fire making, I think it was still probably the right move, just so you don't increase Owen's threat level.
Sure.
Because it is their perception right now. It is Cassidy's perception, Owen's perception, that they can beat Gabler at the end.
Yep.
That Gabler is going to have a really, really difficult time getting votes. And so, you know, don't increase Owen's threat level by letting him beat Jesse and taking him down in fire making.
Now, that said, priority one has to be knocking Jesse out of the game. If Owen is the better fire maker, put him in. It doesn't matter. Jesse's got to go. I would hope Gabler put on a better performance before they went to Final Tribal Council than what we saw in the episode. And that's why Cassie picked him, because he was as good as Owen or better, comparable at the very least. And that was her final decision. Based on what we saw in the show, you know, I would have put in Owen. If that was all the information I had, I would have put in Owen, because Jesse has to go.
Mm-hmm.
So worth noting. It's going to work out. Let's get a best worst player of the Final Four. Josh, who do you got for best?
Yeah, I gave it to Cassidy for winning immunity, because that is the most important one. Yeah, Gabler took out Jesse, but I would say that the Final Four immunity was more important, just because that puts you into the final three. Yeah, he took out the biggest threat here in fire making, and he did ask to be put there, which sure, maybe you needed to do that in order to win the game. I don't know, maybe he would have won regardless, but I feel like I have to give it to her.
It's really close. At the time, I wrote down Gabler just because I thought Cassie probably should have put in Owen. Clearly, this helped Gabler. I'm gonna end up keeping it on Gabler, just because he got to do this show in front of the jury, and it was such a dominant performance. Took out Jesse. Honorable mention to Cassidy for sure. I'm gonna give it to Gabler.
I gave it to Cass at the time with the current information, and if I could go back and switch, I would give it to Gabler.
You can go back and switch.
So based on what I know at the end of the season, I say that it has to be Gabler, because it gave him that moment to say, like, hey, you know what, I can turn this on when I need to, and I have been purposely this submerged a la Gabler, and sorry, it's time to feed. So my boy came up and snapped Jesse.
Yep, real good. He had to wait. He snapped Ellie and he came back for Jesse at the very end.
But full transparency, I did pick Cass at the time, because winning in and don't give the underdog another chance to prove themselves.
Yeah.
I liked all of that up until that moment.
Mm-hmm. And additional argument to get rid of fire making
yes.
is that there is absolutely no reason why someone making a fire at like Final Four should be a reason for them to win the game. It's like, oh wow, good job, you took this person out with fire. I think that you should win the game now, because this matters more than anything you've done in the game so far.
Another reason I am glad that Jesse went home here is because, let's say we take out fire making, it's just vote, Jesse's gone. So I am very glad Jesse lost to fire making, because he was the person who was supposed to go home here.
And I will keep doing this, because maybe someday a CBS employee, an intern, or a producer will be listening to our podcast. You either need to move idols back to final six,
Yep,
or get rid of final four fire making. There needs to be opportunity to get somebody gone in between there. Otherwise, your climax of the season, just as was done with the Cody vote, I think this season, the most exciting moment was actually Cody going home. It got pushed back to final six, final seven, just like every other season where there are idols that get saved up until the last minute, and then we have forced fire making. The best that we ever had was Tony and Sarah. It's not going to get topped.
Nope.
So retire that one. But I mean, if you have to keep it, move back idols so that they expire at final six or final seven. I don't care.
Last season, most exciting move, final six, Homer going home.
Yep. It's like clock. It's like we watch and we know what we're talking about.
Yep.
So anyway, there we go. My plug. I'm done.
I'm gonna go no worst player.
No worst player
for the Final Four.
Yeah, agree.
Owen broke his stick.
That's pretty common here. All right, so we're gonna go into the final tribal council. Owen, Cassidy, Gabler. Basically, we get a little bit of the jury speak stuff. Basically, they want Owen to talk about, being an underdog. Gabler's kind of a mystery, like he needs to explain himself. And Cassidy was on the right side of every vote, kind of a dark horse last minute threat. Was targeted a lot of times, but she was in the majority and kind of, I don't want to say coasted, but like was never on the bottom.
She needed to differentiate herself from the people who got her there, who happened to no longer be in the game.
Yep. So that's kind of what the jury is looking for.
Three
here.
very different pitches, by the way, and
Yep.
that's something that I definitely appreciate. It gives us more perspective in hindsight,
Yep.
and I like that.
And we don't need to go over every single thing the jury said,
And we won't.
We could just kind of talk broad strokes here. So, final tribal council. Basically, Gabler is going to talk about his big strategy. He was in pretty much every alliance. He was looped in with everyone. He could hear every plan. Some were more real than others, but he could go with the plan that suited him most because he was behind the vote up for Ellie at the sort of merge thing,
The fake out merge, the faux merge,
the half merge. He rose up, took out Ellie, and then he's like, okay, all this heat is on me. I'm at the center of attention. I'm going to go back down. I'm going to be the alligator, go back under the water and chill for a while, and then pop back up and take down Jesse.
which within the context of how it was asked in Final Tribal Council sounded like it was support for his game. But all three of us agreed that was not a good move at the time. You shouldn't be throwing your Baka members under the bus right when you come into a merge with a bunch of unknowns. So it's interesting how it was presented as a positive. But you know what? If you can take a negative and present it as a positive and sell it,
that's half a Final Tribal Council.
People buy it, good for you. So
I would say over half of Tribal Council because, yeah, so many things ended up coming up here that I'm just like, I can say negative things about almost all of your guys, not just Gabler's, but basically all three people. It's like all of these things really could be negatives as well. It just depends on how you perceive it and, from their perspective, how they communicate it to the jury.
And Gabler does a great job. He is very confident. He presents his arguments very well. And talks about, I had a relationship with all of you. It was genuine, and I used that to further my game. I did jump alliances, but I did it, as what would serve my game best. So he really didn't have like a charge ahead plan that was his after the Ellie vote. It was just jumping onto the best strategy, which we've seen before, but that's typically not a winning strategy. And to be fair, the two front runners, Jesse and Carla, are out. We have the three unlikely people at the end, which does change things up a little bit. There's no clear front runner, but yeah, this is gonna win Gabler the game.
And it's interesting because this has kind of been the trend the last few seasons, like 41, 42, 43. Like there isn't like this really clear front runner that ends up making it to the final three, whether that's design of the game or the actual contestants are doing that on purpose, like the people in the final three are doing that on purpose. The big threats are all going out at 4, 5, 6, 7, like kind of in that last chunk. So it's interesting to see. You related it a lot to Erica's win, and I think that's pretty accurate. I don't know necessarily what should be seen as most valuable. That's completely up to the people on the season, but it's almost like aspects of a traditional Survivor winner are a little bit more muted because of that, because all of these other threats are going out. So maybe just something about being a part of all these different alliances and having a really good social game. That's all it really takes. That's all it really takes if all the big threats are out of the game.
I think if you could be a likable guy or a person that people had fun being with, and as long as you did something in the game strategically, and you can explain, you can at least put an argument out there on a strategic level, then you can win. I think that's where we're at in the game, and it's not really a change. We've seen this go back all the way to season 4. In our cases, we had something similar. As long as you're likable to some extent, you got to be the most likable person on the board, and you have to have done something in the game. You got it. I think that's the key.
And what's crazy is, like, we did talk about Erica, but I do I mean, maybe to Vesepia's detriment, but she kind of got a pretty bad deal on the edit as well back in season 4. And, I even go back and listen to that podcast with myself. And I honestly, it's my biggest regret in this entire podcast is not giving Vesepia her due credit, especially in the context and in the time. The same thing happened with Gabler tonight, I feel, where severely underedited and made to feel undeserving. And obviously, in the eyes of the jury, that's not the case, which again goes back to production. So I'm glad that you bring up Vesepia, because I think in that way it is an apt comparison, even if it's not two equivalent situations.
No. So next we have Cassidy, and Cassidy's argument, she voted for everyone correctly. She strategically, you could argue like, hey, you got everyone right. You played this perfectly. She was great in the challenges. She and Owen tied for the most challenge wins of the season. And then Carla asked her question like, hey, what was your biggest move in the pre-merge? Because this is what Carla was going to threaten her with. Like, I'll tank your game. I'll say it was me and James. And Cassidy answers this very well. She's like, my biggest move in the pre-merge was aligning with you and James because you guys looked out for me and we took over the tribe together. It was like, boom, gotcha, Carla. So I really like that answer for Cassidy. I think where she runs into an issue is she is going to say one of her biggest moves is taking out Ryan. And the big reveal is that was actually Jesse, Cody, and Gabler who were behind that vote.
The Ride or Die Alliance, which got outed kind of here. It didn't seem like any of the other jury realized that Gabler was in with the power duo, which was actually a power trio.
Yep.
And I mean,
it's helped his game.
I mean, yeah, if you're in with every single alliance in the game, like technically you can say that you were a part of that move, like congratulations, but you're not. This is where I've had the biggest issue, is that Gabler's almost getting credit for being told what to do, whereas it's very different than Cassidy being with James and Carla. Like they were making those moves and decisions together, and you could make the argument that Cassidy was actually directing one or two on her own as well. Meanwhile, Gabler is a part of all these because he's being told what to do, and it seemed like just because he was aligning himself with the really big threats in those ways, he was almost getting a little bit of extra credit because of that. And I don't think, I mean, obviously they don't care, like they're gonna vote for him either way, but it just seems like it's a little bit of misplaced credit.
I agree. I don't think Gabler won because of his strategic game, I guess. He just had the social bonds to be with these people and then get the plan information. And then Owen, basically he owns up to playing an imperfect game, had a lot of issues, which is exactly what he needs to do. He's got to own the fact that he was in a bad spot. Unfortunately, to do this, he has to admit to all the mistakes he made. It's a tough argument to make. If Gabler had done a worse job, I think Owen could have won this. But he was in a tough spot to win this. It's just a hard thing to convince people to vote for. Like, yeah, my game was imperfect. I sucked at times.
It's almost like he didn't play a good game.
Points for honesty. Shut up, Josh. He gets super honesty points. I'll say that much. It's just a tough argument to make. It could have worked here, but Gabler did a great job.
And if I'm going to keep complaining here, just because it seems like that's all I'm doing at this point, I feel like they being the jury were a lot harder on Cassidy unfairly. I think that they saw, and this is just because I think this as well, that she played a better game than Owen overall. Yes, maybe it was because Owen was in some bad situations, but he got himself into those situations. Cassidy positioned herself really well within these alliances to be able to get where she wanted to be in the game, and maybe she just didn't own that well enough, but I feel like they treated her a lot differently during these conversations. Like they looked at her answers a little bit more negatively, or her game a little bit more negatively, versus whenever Owen gave answers and they were like, yeah, he like being like really truthful about underdog and not playing a great game and having these failures or whatever. They're like, no, like, oh, this was really great, like good for you, and like basically like kind of just like propping him up and being really positive about his game. That really bugged me, just because it seemed like there shouldn't have been that kind of difference in the way that they were treating them.
To a certain extent,
I don't know if you guys noticed that either, but that was just something that maybe I was just paying really close attention to Cassidy, but it just seemed like it was a little unfair to her.
My big thing between the two, and for the record, I think historically speaking, juries and Survivor in general is harsher against women in all of these situations. Are there exceptions where there's, little doubt? Like, yeah, I mean, Kim comes to mind, but that was an all women finale anyway, so it's kind of a moot point there. But my big thing is Owen played his own game, a very flawed game, but it was his. He sided with Noelle to his detriment. He wasn't able to keep the Baka boys together to his detriment. And I could jump into the fact that, like, Owen was on a tribe where it turned into guy versus girl, but the guys were vastly different ages, where you had a 19-year-old, a 30-year-old, and a 51-year-old. And then you've got like Jesse and Cody, who are like, I don't know, a couple years apart at most, and they totally hit it off. And you've got Cassidy and Carla, who, again, relatively close, but it's certainly not 19 to 51 trying to keep it together. They hit it off and they keep it together. And so how is Owen expected to be the glue here? Well, he isn't. He fails, but he plays his own very flawed game. Cassidy was definitely in a group that played a game, and she was the last survivor and viewed to be the weakest of. And that's where I think she ran into trouble, is because she's trying to convince two of these jury members, who were the founding members of that sort of power core, that she was just as big in just as big of a piece in that alliance as they were. And they definitely don't see it that way.
Well, except one of them voted for her.
One of them did.
One of them did. And
so I don't
James's
know if that's
credit.
completely fair to say because of that.
I think what it really is Survivor juries tend to be harder on the people who ran the game the whole time, and they're less hard on the underdogs. Gender could absolutely play a role into this, and I think it probably does. But the other part is Cassidy was in control, or at least, the illusion of control, and in the majority of the entire game, Owen and Gabler were not. Everyone loves an underdog.
Gabler was in the post-merge.
Okay, so Owen was not. Gabler secretly was, and that was like the big surprise reveal, is that he was secretly in on everything. But people tend to be harder against the majority than the underdog. So that definitely plays a role in it as well. Ultimately, it's going to be 8 votes for Gabler, or 7 votes for Gabler, 7 votes for Gabler, and 1 vote for Cassidy, with that one coming from James. No votes for Owen. I have one note here. It's what? ?
That sums it up.
So what I am really, really interested in, this is probably the thing I've been looking forward to most, is something we ask at the end of every season is, we don't want to be like, who should have won? And that's how we started with the Rewind series, and we changed this at some point along the way. Because, we weren't there, and the jury can vote for whoever they want and whatever they value, and that's fine.
For the betterment of the podcast, by the way, I'm glad that we've changed this.
So the question is, who would we have voted for? With the information we have, who would we have voted for? We each have different rationales here. Derek, why don't you start us off?
With what we saw, and I am not just saying this to be a stubborn prick, I would have voted for Owen for the simple reason that of the 3, he is the only one that I believe truly played his own game. With all of its flaws, he rode no coattails. Where he is because of what he himself did. A lot of the times where Cass didn't go home, wasn't her plan to save herself. It wasn't anything she put in motion. It was Jesse hoodwinking somebody, or Gabler floating between a million different voting blocks and basically taking no heat because everyone viewed him as a goat, and not the greatest of all time kind of goat. He's just like, wherever the wind takes me, wherever the wind blows, that's where I go. And luckily at the end, he was able to say with Ride or Die specifically, I was definitely going to the end with them. That's really easy to say when they cannibalize themselves.
Yeah.
So Owen played his own game, and I think based on what I saw, I would respect that the most, and I'd send my vote his way.
Josh?
I would not respect Owen's game at all. Sorry. I want someone who does a good job at their game. The big difference here is Owen survived and was the underdog and everything like that, but it's because he was wrong and made mistakes the entire game. How many times did we open up the next episode and it was basically just like, well, that didn't go like I planned. At a certain point, it's okay, you are making a lot of mistakes. Votes are not going your way because you're out of the right communication lines. You're out of the right alliance. And I think Cassidy said, maybe I misheard this, but I'm pretty sure Cassidy said that she voted correctly on every single vote. And you can argue or criticize one small point of, oh, it might have been, Jesse doing something instead of Cassidy, or it might have been Carla that was, dictating the vote. Okay, great. She was still in on all that stuff. She was in the right lines of communication and in the right alliances because she put herself there and she progressed herself through the game on purpose to do those things. Yeah, she didn't have a big flashy move, but I would much, 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 much rather have that than someone who's making mistakes the entire game and just skating by because no one's targeting him as a threat. Cassidy was targeted as a threat multiple times by multiple people who all went home. I think she should have said that a lot more. She said it once during Final Tribal. I think she really should have pushed on that more. I value Cassidy's game a lot more than Owen's because of those things. Gabler just didn't see enough of. I mean, now that I'm talking about it, yeah, you could probably argue that Gabler did a lot of the same things that Cassidy did in those ways where he was a part of the vote a lot of times. But I just didn't see enough to be able to form that kind of opinion on it.
This might shock people. I'm going to agree with Josh. I would have voted for Cassidy. It took me a while to think about it because this is tough. Flawed final three, but the way I always look at it, who had the best physical game? First of all, it's a tie. Owen and Cassidy each won 3. Social game, Gabler. Okay, so we're pretty much even. Let's look at the strategic game. Owen's most of his plans failed. Gabler just lashed onto other people's. Who was driving not a ton of the votes, but some of the votes? It was Cassidy. So with her challenge performance and her strategic game, I think I would have voted for Cassidy. And it's not like she's a bad social player either. She had a fight with Carla like twice. And I didn't get along with Ryan either. That's not, not great, but it's not bad. So like I said, flawed winners or flawed players across the board, my vote would have gone to Cassidy.
And this is just another talking point because I respect why you guys would vote for Cass in all of this. I think this might be the second weakest strategic game, final 3 of all time. Like if you look specifically at strategic, I think Gabon is the worst with Susie Sugar and Bob Crowley. Yep. And I'm not meaning to bring in Bob Crowley just because, he's the other winner over 50, but like Owen, he had strategy, but it literally all failed. Cassidy, I still argue that most of her strategy was not hers. It was stuff falling around her. Like, yes, she ended up on the right side because it suited other people to keep her. And Gabler didn't strategize in any way that affected anything outside of just advancing him one day further, but he didn't drive anything. He just shifted around. So I think this might be the weakest strategic game final 3 since Gabon.
I'm struggling to think of another one.
I don't remember who mentioned it, but they basically said like, I don't know, something like 75 or 80% of the immunity challenge wins were on the final 3.
Yeah, it's 7 out of the 9. Yep, and that's including like the weird, like giving a full point to Owen and not crediting, I guess, fully Carla on the one that they both won, but whatever.
Yeah, and that's already the second. I already saw somebody compare this to Survivor Gabon tonight on Twitter. Might have been like Mike Bloom or something.
I saw that too, so it's kind of funny that Derek brought that up.
And I'm trying to stay away from it because it's so easy just to look at age and demographic and say like, oh yeah, Gabler's exactly like Bob. No,
not even close.
No, Bob won like 4 individual immunity challenges, and Susie was kind of a big nothing burger, and Sugar was
all over the place.
It's very different.
So we're gonna go to the after show, Survivor after show, which whatever. It was really long.
Bad pizza and champagne.
It was really long. This was too long.
Yeah,
we get it. Move on. But the interesting
Jeff is pushing champagne on everyone over and over again. Oh, yes. Let me fill you up. Oh, drink up, everyone.
Well, and extracting compliments for beware advantages and knowledge is power. We couldn't get out of the after show without talking about knowledge is power.
On that note, I do want to say Janine pointed out how the advantages don't really help the people who find them. They help their allies, like the closest person to them. That very astute Janine. That's kind of what we've been saying all season is you don't want to be the person to find these. Tell some if you find a beware advantage, tell someone else and have them go get it.
Yeah, we made that recommendation several times, not just this season, but in season 41 and 2 as well.
Yep. That's where we're at. So Survivor's I think it's time to Survivor to change some things up here.
Yes.
this is where we learned that Gabler swayed a whole bunch of people during the Final Tribal Council. And then Gabler also tells everyone he's going to donate all the winnings to like veterans charities, which is really amazing. Maybe the government should be taking care of these people, not Survivor winners. Wouldn't it be good if reality show winners weren't funding our healthcare system for veterans? I don't know. That's just my thought.
What a novel idea, Ryan. Yeah.
As lovely as a gesture as this is from Gabler, like what the hell, man?
Great gesture. And he knew that he wanted to do this before he won. So awesome. Like good for him. It's something that's near and dear to his heart. And we get a lot of charity stuff throughout all 43 seasons, basically. Oh, what are you gonna do with money? Oh, I'm gonna donate to this, whatever it might be. I'm sure Gabler's family would enjoy a little bit of that money, to make their lives a little bit easier.
Hey, they can go win Survivor themselves.
You're right.
On the next Blood versus Water.
But you should Gabler have to donate all $1 million to help veterans.
I was hoping that Jeff would say like, Gabler, awesome. Survivor's going to do that on their own.
We saw Mike Holloway throw out a tweet saying that CBS should at least match the donation. And you know what? I love the clarion call from the former winner. Like, can we get a signed petition from all 41 winners of Survivor that, hey, you know what? Why don't you match the donation there, CBS? That's a pretty cool gesture you just got.
I agree.
But regardless, I mean, maybe Congress could match that 200 or 300 times over, and we could solve not just homeless vet problems, but maybe homeless. I know this is getting political now, and that's not why we're here.
That's not why we're here.
But there are moments.
But tell us we're wrong. I dare you.
We're going to get a 2-star review on Apple Podcasts for that one.
I regret nothing.
Everyone go in and leave 5-star reviews to negate that one bad review.
Yeah, please give us 5-star reviews in our podcast listener choice. Thank you very much.
I feel like there is some stuff that like I don't know, that observations.
Okay.
This has been brought up by me or by you guys before in the past. Actually, I think by me. Maybe it's a result of the new jury format that I still am not completely bought into, but it seems like we're moving more and more towards a jury that's just kind of thinking together instead of everyone voting on their own. And I think that there's a lot more decision making that's happening before Final Tribal Council, and that is really starting to bug me. I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was Ryan, but someone basically said, or maybe it was Sammy, I don't know, that basically said like that they had gotten together or like they had talked about it beforehand. Like they had a checklist of things that they wanted each person to talk about, and Gabler's the one that checked all those boxes. I feel like that is such a bad approach to making a decision on who the winner of the season is going to be. I would much rather have people think uniquely in their own perspective rather than like, oh yep, we're all going to go in this direction, and as long as this person checks all the boxes, then we're gonna give them the title.
This was it put into the game as a way to prevent quote unquote bitter juries, or people just being angry and getting up and giving a speech and not really asking any questions. That's why this was implemented in the game, and that's why I like this. It's one of the few changes to the game I've actually enjoyed. So yeah, we might get more groupthink, but we also get less just like people who are just pissed off and angry. I think this is a way to prevent, and I don't really agree with the term bitter juries, but like angry juries. I think it avoids that. I'm more okay with getting groupthink as long as it's like solid groupthink rather than insanity we've got in the past. So I get where you're coming from, Josh, but I like this more than what we've had before.
I don't see it as a preventative measure, but kind of along the same thinking. I think the new jury format is meant to give validity to other games that previously were overshadowed by the big move era of Survivor, where it was, here's the resume, I got a 3-2-1 vote, hand me my $1 million now, please. You get the Marianne saying like, hey, we're a flawed final three. This is how I guaranteed myself getting to the end without making anybody angry, and Mike losing because of it. This is where you get Gabler coming in and saying, I am the Alligabler. I was the only one who cared about threat management in the post-merge, and you should care about that. And they're like, you know what? maybe we should care about that. I like under the radar, but I like it when it's under the radar for the people in the game and not for the viewer. Big difference. So I don't have an issue with the new jury format. I also think it's a function of the casting. We're casting people who tend to be more super fans. I'm not saying we should go out and recruit 17 out of 18 people, but I kind of want some more angry people, some more characters, some more, maybe even like an unlikable villain every now and again. But we've been pretty positive across the board for the last 3 seasons. But that is a problem I'm happy to deal with.
I actually don't want any of the angry people. Every once in a while, it's okay with like Sue Hawk, and back in Borneo, but like most of the time, I'm just like, get over it. It's a game. I know that's not a popular take with a lot of people, but I don't love the interpersonal conflict where it gets a little too conflicty, and that's true with like the Amazing Race as well. I hate the bickering teams, and I know a lot of people love them. So I'm more than okay to move away from that crap. That's not why I watch these shows. There's plenty of reality TV out there for like the drama and like the big character conflict. I'm not here for that.
My only counterpoint to that is it takes away almost from the aspect of, Jeff always says like, and that's the really fascinating part of Survivor is you need to find a way to vote people out who are going to vote for you to give the $1 million. And it's like, okay, that's almost irrelevant nowadays, almost like in modern Survivor. So
it's become less of a thing just because there's so many super fans on the show who are just like, this is awesome. Like I'm pissed for like a little bit and then I get over it pretty quickly. And yeah, that's definitely true. It's something I like.
And what's funny is I think all 3 of us, if we were on the show, that's how we would do it. So I'm not going to sit here and complain about an entire rest of the cast because it's how I would do it. I can't be mad at them for getting on the show and doing it before I have an opportunity to.
So, and then there's just one other thing that I kind of wanted to bring up almost along in this kind of topic is the other thing that confused me with this that maybe leads a little bit to the whole like groupthink jury aspect of it is how surprised Cassidy and Owen were about this, because we're talking about, Gabler got 7 out of the 8 votes, and maybe it was super obvious to them because he had this great social game. The counterpoint to that is that Cassidy and Owen were so surprised that he ended up winning this game. Once he ended up getting 3, 4, 5 votes, like their jaws dropped. They looked at each other and were basically just like, is this actually happening right now? They were so blindsided by the fact that the jury was giving Gabler the title that kind of confused me. It's like, if they are that disconnected, how is the jury all so much on the same page?
That could be a trick of the editing. We'll have to check the exit interviews and with Owen and Cassidy and see what they say, but that might not have happened.
And without going too far down into the 1% of 1% hole, let's say that what you saw was accurate. Maybe the jury was in fact not necessarily caring about the social game. Maybe they just saw 2 very flawed games and one big mystery box. But that's going down quite the rabbit hole. We can't assume that. We have to assume that they all had some understanding going in.
All right, let's wrap this season up, huh?
Let's do it.
Let's get into best and worst player of the season. As a reminder, you can only give this award out to people who made the merge. We will count Ellie. I know that's not what Jeff would say, but screw that. Ellie is eligible to win either best or worst player of the season, but nobody before Ellie's boot is available, the 5 of them. So Josh, why don't you start us off? Who is the best player of the season? This is tough, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Jesse. The other candidate, in my opinion, would be Carla here. They both ended up having some flaws in the game, though. Carla really had a rough ending. A couple of things just didn't go her way. She wasn't able to get a couple of votes together at the end. But then on Jesse's side, the negatives for him were that, we talked about it on this podcast. It's like, why is he making these moves? These are so unnecessary moves. And I think that I'm gonna end up giving it to him just because those seem to positively impact just like people's perspectives more than what I thought that they were. I thought that they were going to get more negative reactions of like, why is he doing all these things? And that never really came around to that. He was really kind of heralded as the best player of the season with the best move of the season. So he just didn't make it to final three. So I'm going to give it to him.
I agree completely. It's Jesse. I think I was nervous about giving it to him because I thought the jury might be mad at him. I don't think that was the case. I think he would have won maybe every vote. So I Jesse is the best player of the season.
I have Jesse. I'm going to throw out an honorable mention to Cody, surprisingly enough, because I think that if he wasn't a threat, Jesse wouldn't have gone to such lengths to blindside him. And I think given the existence of Kip, I can't hate Cody too much for wanting to cover it with his ride or die. So honorable mention him, but it's Jesse.
Worst player of the season, I'm going to give it to my winner pick, Ryan Medrano. The guy is a provider, and he seems like a really nice guy. Too nice for Survivor. He has no strategic game. Yeah, it's Ryan.
It's Ryan.
Yeah, giving it to Ryan too.
My boy. Sucks to see.
What a winner pick, Ryan. What a winner pick.
Yeah, but so it'll just be the prophecy of the first Ryan winner falls to me, it seems.
You have to get cast first.
Yeah, right.
You'll never get through that interview with Jeff.
Oh man. I'll have to play nice with Jeff. Well, speaking of Jeff, is there anything you wanted to add to Jeff Watch?
Man, I'm so sucked into this after show right now where he's self-congratulatory. I don't necessarily think this email account is meant to go anywhere. I do think it's just going to be a repository of dead ideas and criticisms. But there were times this season that Jeff genuinely seemed like he was inebriated. He was just intoxicated with like the positivity of the cast. And he was like, Survivor is this great thing. And so even if it's not self-congratulatory, it's like, hey, look at this project that I happen to have a really big hand in creating. So I'm going to go with self-congratulatory this season, if anything, for Jeff Watch.
I see it.
So that's really all I got. If you guys didn't see anything else.
No, I would agree.
I would agree. Anything for the weather report?
Did it even rain?
Yeah, this is clearly the dry season.
Yeah, I don't remember a single like harrowing moment for them related to the weather.
That means it's coming next season.
They're already previewing 44 as a tougher season.
Yep. You want to be on one of those dry.
You want to be the odd number.
All right, last thing we have to do, Josh. Most memorable moment of the season. Our memorability correspondent, even though we just watched this season. As of now, what would you say is the most memorable moment of season 43?
Yeah, I kind of have to predict here, just like, what's going to stand the test of time, like 5 years from now, or however long we want to look back on this. I think it's going to end up being Jesse's move here at the end, but maybe an honorable mention to when Gabler gets 2 or 3 votes at Final Tribal and you realized, oh my God, he did it. How?
I'm leaning towards the Cody one.
I was just so dumbfounded, but yeah, I think it has to be Jesse's move just because it was such a big move, and they're already talking about it being one of the best or biggest, however you want to classify it, moves in Survivor history.
Yeah, I'll throw my weight in behind Jesse's move as well. He stole Cody's idol and essentially used it against him. That takes guts.
Ice in the veins.
Honorable mention to the first double immunity win as well.
It wasn't supposed to be one.
Nope.
That was great.
We defeated the ocean.
Carla and Owen, right?
Yeah, Carla and Owen defeat the ocean. That's nothing to sneeze at.
That's a movie I want to see in the theaters.
All right, well, that wraps up season 43. If you are new around here, we have the Rewind podcast you can go check out. The next thing that will be coming out is our Survivor season 24 One World podcast, which we recorded back in August. They've been done, sitting on the burner for a while. They're ready to go. So that first one of those will be out the week after New Year's. We'll be taking a little break over the holidays. But yeah, the first one of those, the first week after New Year's, will be coming out.
And then to go beyond that, we are going to also work on season 25 during this break as well. But we're only going to do the one because we've all earned a well-deserved break through the holiday season. And we also don't want to push too closely up to season 44. So if you don't see us in the podcatcher for a while, that's us just becoming better people so that we can come back stronger than ever. We're not going anywhere, folks.
Yeah. We got to double check on the dates for sure, but it'll most likely just be 24 and 25 coming out in the off season. You know, we'll see how much time we have. We could do a thing where we also watch and record 26, but we don't release it in the off season. We don't know, but we are going to take a well-earned break here for at least a few weeks.
And we did have a couple of questions on Twitter. Do we
Hit
want to
us.
rattle through those quick?
Sure.
All right. So first, I think this is funny. Not really a question, just a nice little mention from JSNids56 on Twitter. He just mentioned a Survivor what if of Cassidy's tower falls and Owen realizes he now has a chance, but simultaneously realizes he can no longer compete as his pole is now broken.
Amazing.
We would get a nice pouting shot of Owen being unable to compete.
Right. Blake Miller on Twitter asked, does this really mean a new strategy to winning is to just be perceived as a non-threat, so you'll get taken to the end and hope the jury is bitter at people that actually played the game?
No, we've had this since season 4.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big takeaway. Is a lot of people, and like we talked about, this is more the edit than anything, that a lot of people are going to think that this is a bitter jury.
It
Might not be the case.
I think it'll revitalize it in the minds of the viewers, but this has always been a very hard but viable strategy.
A couple of mentions of fire making needing to go away.
Agreed.
Brandon Straight on Twitter talking about a bitter jury as well. We answered that, but thanks for reaching out. And then we did get one more Spotify Wrapped shout out. So wanted to give a nice little shout out to Claire Michelle. Your sister reached out to us to mention that we made your top 5 podcasts of 2022. So thank you very much. We made it to number 2 on your list.
Right behind a true crime podcast. So now we've lost it to Star Wars and true crime.
Dang you, true crime. We got to stop all murders. There's no more true crime podcasts.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Follow us on Twitter at Castaway Pod, Instagram, TikTok, all that fun stuff.
And one really quick thank you to Ryan for being the editor on the season. We really appreciate it. And a big thank you to the audience. We are nothing without you guys. We love you.
We absolutely do. All right. This has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.